Hey, it's Heather again. Today I'm standing inside Jerusalem, actually on the Temple Mount. What you see behind me is the southern excavations of the Temple Mount. So this is actually the area where Jesus would have entered into the temple when he came in right before his death and resurrection, and actually where he would have come to celebrate many of the festivals that he joined his disciples in. In fact, this is the place where we would see Mary and Joseph entering the temple to dedicate Jesus. It's where Peter and James would have encountered the man that needed healing when they entered the temple, where Paul came in. And one of the most amazing stories that happened right here we find in Acts 2, when on the day of Pentecost there were people from all over the world that were in Jerusalem to celebrate that feast, and the Holy Spirit was poured out on them. The disciples began to speak in other tongues, and all of these pilgrims from all around the world began to hear them speak in their language. Peter stood up and preached, and 3,000 people were saved and baptized in one day. And they were baptized in these ritual immersion pools that surround the Temple Mount. Now, we've been talking this week about being amazed and confused, and there's a really interesting little verse in Acts 2 verse 12, where after the people from all these pilgrims from all around the world are in Jerusalem for the Feast of Pentecost, they hear the disciples speaking in other tongues, and it says that they were amazed and perplexed, and they asked one another, "What does this mean?" Now, Jesus was one of the most amazing and confusing people that ever lived. In fact, when we read in the book of Matthew, there are at least 4 times where people were amazed at his teaching, amazed at his miracles, amazed at his power. And in one place in Matthew 8, when they were amazed at his miracles, the people asked, "What can this mean?" In Matthew 14, when they realized that he was the son of Mary and Joseph from the town of Nazareth, they wondered, where did his power come from? And on the day of Pentecost in Acts 2, people were amazed at the work of the Holy Spirit and confused, asking, "What does this mean?" I don't think God is scared of those questions. In fact, I think that faith is found on the other side of those questions. We all want to be amazed at God's power. That's one of the things that we long to see. But not many of us are willing to be in a place we're also perplexed and confused by it. And yet when we're in that place, that might mean that we are on the brink of God doing something completely new and different and revolutionary in our lives. And so like the disciples on the day of Pentecost, like the pilgrims at the Temple Mount on the day of Pentecost, when they stood amazed and confused at the power of God right in front of them, and they asked, "What can this mean?" May we be the same kind of people that can say, "What can this mean?" Not be afraid of that question, realizing that God isn't afraid of that question, and what we might find on the other side of it is something that is history changing. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll pick you up again at another site.